Live and direct, live and direct, you are tuned into the Diallo Show, broadcasting straight out of the sanctuary hypocrisy. That is the city of Chirac, state of Illinois. Today is Friday, October 10th, in the year of your Lord, 2018. Good morning, Chirac. Good morning, America. Good morning to my listeners across the globe who are listening on iTunes apps, iTunes Radio, YouTube, Facebook Live, and of course for my local yokels, for my roundaway fillets, my stromies from home, from Stony, AM 1680. And if we have any listeners, what's the WGHC FM signal? I know we were supposed to, I don't know, I have to talk to John. There was supposed to be some negotiation discussion on setting us up on the FM broadcast signal, but they don't tell me nothing around here. But as I said, I like to repeat myself. Today is October 19th in the year of your Lord 2018. This is the Diallo Show, broadcasting live across Q4 radio and many other social media and internet platforms. So ain't no such thing as local anymore. We worldwide. Oh, shout out to the Popper, local KC hip hop. That was their first album. Today we worldwide. You know, they predicted that way back in, what was that, 94? Man. Anyway, a lot to get into today. I know there's a really trending story which kind of frustrates and confuses me, and I understand why it would frustrate and confuse others about this Khashoggi assassination. For y'all who are smart enough to stay out of the corporate media, those who are smart enough to ignore any media that has corporate sponsorship, y'all would know that y'all would probably not know that there was a Saudi Arabian journalist who was assassinated in Turkey. And Turkey is the sick man of Europe. Turkey is a European state, but it's an Islamic religious culture. And so Turkey, like Slavs of Eastern Europe, and again, we talk, if you're a longtime listener of the show, I know in the United States, and we who fall under Western oppression, we tend to think as white people as a monolith, as they think of us. Good for the goose, good for the gander. But white folks is white folks. Or as Khalid Muhammad, it wasn't Kwame, but Khalid Muhammad said a cracker is a cracker is a cracker is a cracker. He said it, I didn't say it. He could have been talking about saltines, he could have been talking about grams, but all I know is Khalid Muhammad said a crack. And although I agree with a lot that Khalid Muhammad said, I don't agree with that. There's a lot of diversity within those classifications of white, European, Western, Euro, whatever you call them, Urugu. There's a lot of diversity within those, and there's a lot of conflicts. That if we had any sense, if we weren't so emotional, if we could get our feelings out of there, there's a lot of choke points and conflicts within the white spectrum that we could exploit. But, you know, that's another discussion. I'm talking about Turkey now. There are populations of white people who are either new to whiteness or are not fully welcomed in whiteness, who have secured whiteness but haven't fully locked it down yet. They're on a trial basis. Like Turkey is white on a trial basis. You know, the Soviet Union, after the fall of the Soviet Union, the Russians thought they'd get to be full on white, but then they found whiteness was kind of whack. So they went back to totalitarianism, and in order to be white, you have to have a fake pretend democracy. Even if you are setting up an apartheid system like in Israel, you have to, you know, you have to claim democracy. So anyway, Turkey has always been working hard, and if it were me, Turkish people, they've done everything to get into. They committed a genocide against the Armenians. They tried their hand at colonialism, militarism. They allowed the U.S. to use their country as a launch pad for the invasion of their own people in the Middle East. They betrayed, backstabbed. The Turks have done everything in their power to get their white card. And what the white community, the Western culture did was they took the white card and ripped it in half and gave them half of the card. And so now the Turks are always like, well, let's go all Arab. Let's go all Persian. Let's go all Islamic. Let's just Islamic out. To hell with trying to be European, cosmopolitan, democratic. To hell with it. We keep trying. We did everything you asked us to do. But anyway, the Turks have always had a severe identity crisis. And their white brothers, because y'all pray to the wrong God. You got to be either Catholic or Protestant. The white folks who are Islamic or Jewish, they always, there's too much. But then I'm sure the white Muslims and the white Jews are like, yo, you tell us to be Catholic or Protestant and we could be white, but Catholics and Protestants are beating the hell out of each other. Protestant sects are beating the hell out of other Protestant sects. Even what about Eastern Orthodox? Aren't they Christian? It's a mess. White folks are a hot ghetto mess. But we can't study that, because if you acknowledge this, if you go into academia, and you say, I want to study why black people are so violent. It's like, here's grants. Here's a title. Here's everything you need. Here's a pocket protector. Here's one of those tweed sport coats with the patches on the elbow and a pipe. You are an academic. Study those blacks. What's wrong with black people? Or if you say, I want to study why black women have babies out of wedlock. Study away. Here's a grant. Here's plane tickets to fly to the ghetto. And look, here's a microscope and a magnifying glass. Go find out what's wrong with blacks. If you come up and say, I want to study black juvenile delinquents, why black people can't sit down and learn in these schools. I want to study black. What's wrong with black people? You are a legitimate scholar. You are a legitimate scholar. If you set up a charity in the hood, like Becoming a Man, as if these blacks are so savage, they don't naturally develop into men. They need special assistance into becoming men. Oh, here's grants. Here's money. Here's titles. Here's an office. Here's a plant for your office. Here's a cubicle. Study and work with these blacks. You can be legitimate. If you say something wrong with black people and I want to study it or try to help black people to fix it, and pathologizing black people, you're legitimate. Nobody will call you out. Even Trump gets on there and say, what's wrong with black people? What black people got to lose? Our neighborhoods are crap. Our countries of origin, our homeland is a shithole. You can do that. And other people, if you want to study Native Americans, if you want to study Asians, why are Asians, what's going on? Why are they currency manipulators? I don't know. You can study anybody. India. They rape and they worship all those gods. What is wrong with those people? But if you come and say, listen, I want to study the people who are destroying the planetary ecosystem. I want to study the people who have made weapons to destroy all life forms. I want to study the people who have put accumulation over life. I want to study the people who have developed an obscene economic system and then went around the world and cut everybody's throat who wouldn't bow to it. What's wrong with them? What are you, some kind of hate monger? You're some kind of militant? You're some kind of radical? Can't study white folks. White folks can't even study white folks. Even Freud, remember they used to love Freud, but then they found out, somebody took time to read Freud and found out Freud was doing some critical examination of white folks. Karl Marx said, I want to study the material economic and class history and Marx. Every white person that has honestly taken a look, you know, the white scholars that write those grand books and make grand movies about Abraham Lincoln and all these triumphant white people, now they will be legitimate, too legit to quit. Ooh, 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 too legit to quit. But it ain't just blacks. You don't need Professor Mustafa, Professor Jabbo Jones, Professor Muhammad. You go look at Noam Chomsky. What's that? Norman Finkelstein. These are white people who went to Ivy League school, MIT, Harvard. Even if you're a white scholar who went to the best Ivy League white schools, if you start to look at white people critically, you will be ousted from your university. Even if you have a tenure, they'll put you in a back room somewhere. They'll let you publish a book or a journal article and they will bury it. The very publisher. You publish a book and a think tank or some multinational corporation will come and buy all the books and shred them. And you'll even be on the New York Times bestseller list and nobody would have ever read your book. So you can't study white folks. You can't study white folks. I mean, if I took my talent for radio and I wanted to say, well, I'm not going to be talking about, you know, critically talking about people in power and the people with the resources. I'll just get on here and talk about single mothers. I'd be on Fox Radio making 6 figures at least. Or if I just wanted to talk about, even if I didn't want to be a sellout Uncle Tom bootlicking buck dancer, and I wanted to be sympathetic and talk and be a liberal integrationist. Now I could be on Radio 1 somewhere. I could be somewhere like that rolling with a thick pack of hot dog necks and an ascot. Bring Dr. Umar on and ask him what, you know, how dare you? You know, you can't talk honestly or critically about the people in power. Unless you want to be relegated, unless you want to be sitting in this cold studio next to me, damn near ready to freeze. So I came in the studio, the damn window was open. You know, I'm gonna file a complaint with the with the Justice Department. I'm gonna ask Jeff Sessions to come and investigate Q4 Radio because there was some white woman that said, I didn't save the article because I felt that she stole my thunder, but there was a white woman that said, in corporate America, the air conditioner is sexist because they keep the temperature at an unfairly low and women tend to be colder than men. And that in a professional setting, if an individual company is the individual supervisor's policy or the company-wide policy to lower the thermostat to keep it cold as hell throughout the summer, then they're being sexist because women can't thrive in that environment. And I'm like, women can't thrive. Now, I'm not one of them dudes that's so caught up on manhood. I'm really not. I'm not the best. I'm not really, to my gender, I'm not the best representative of my gender. And I'm sorry. I tried to be for a while, but it was exhausting. So I don't mind being lumped with the women. But I think I always thought it was a racial thing. I always thought white people, because I mean, again, I know I'm not supposed to critically observe and study and record what white people do and don't do. I know I'm not supposed to. But I mean, I've ruined any chance of legitimacy. Even though Barack Obama kicked down the door and made it possible for any black man to dream to be president. Sisters, y'all still gotta wait. But a black man could be president. I've ruined my legitimacy. I've got too much in the public sphere. I've said too many things I shouldn't have said and I didn't have to say and I said anyway. So I'll never get up there. But I would always observe, just the other day, it's cold as hell here in Chicago. And I see white people wearing shorts and short sleeve shirts. You know, I get scared when I see white people in like scarves and heavy coats, parkas and stocking caps. I get scared because I'm like, what is going on? New ice age? Because usually white people don't seem to get that cold. I didn't know that white women get colder than black, but that's a new thing that I've learned. That's a new thing that I learned. Now, elderly people across the board, I think that's when we all get equal at the precipice of death. Because I know old white people are cold, and I worked in healthcare, and there's a lot of you interact with a lot of elderly people. I've interacted with literally hundreds of people at or above the 100 years old. When I first started in healthcare, I would literally look at these people's chart, and they were born in the 1800s, back in '92. And I have met several people that were born in the late 1800s. So I knew a lot, and they were always cold. I just really vibe with them. I could have just took off my scrubs and got in that and got in that wheelchair and just totally been comfortable around all those cold old white people and black people. It was universal. But apparently, white women be chilling. But anyway, I'm cold in here, and I'm gonna maybe ask Jeff Sessions to come to examine Q4 radio. And let me just say this, and I'll get back to one of my points. I want to talk about Khashoggi, about this journalist that was killed. Khashoggi, I didn't want to talk about it because I couldn't pronounce his name. Anyway, well, maybe I won't go into that rabbit hole. Let me get back to my point. Excuse me. There was a journalist killed in Turkey. I don't know how I got so far off the point. There was a journalist killed in Turkey. But I just would imagine if I called Jeff Sessions, hold on. Like, yo. You know, because Q4, this is a peculiar place. A lot of people with weird ideas here. A lot of off-brand, not very much Britney Spears. I mean, they play music, but it's like a lot of alternative stuff going here. So I might blow up the spot for everybody. But I would tell Jeff Sessions, I am a man of color, an African-American, descendant of slave, and the place where I broadcast from, it's always cold. I have to wear sweaters year-round. And I think it's cultural bias. Can you come in and examine? Maybe I got a case. But I don't know. I don't think Q4 has any money. Maybe I can get some extension cords if I win my case. Like, give me those those grimy extension cords, and maybe a couple of speaker stands. That's all I stand to gain. So support Q4 radio, y'all. So when I bring my y'all keep it too cold in here case, and Jeff Sessions, that little racist elf, will come with my case and help me. Anyway, now let me get back to my point. This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. Let's get back to the point. Get to the point. That's what some people tell me. Brother, get to the point. I figured, like, this is a conversation. This is a flow. But y'all want professionalism? I'm coming from this moment forward. What time is it? 22 minutes after the hour. Central Standard Time. Y'all getting straight up here. Y'all want the NPR whisper? Because I can do the NPR. I can do the radio, like, legit, like, commercial radio voice. But I'll get to the point. Here we go. Here we go. There was a journalist who was murdered in Turkey by Saudi Arabian hit squad. Because this dude, in fact, this journalist, this guy named is Khashoggi. I can spell it for y'all. Khashoggi. Khashoggi. He's a Saudi Arabian. And in fact, before the current absolute monarch of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and it's not Saudi Arabia. Saudi is a family, the House of Saud. Arabia is the country. This country literally was stolen by one family, or one family dictatorship. That's terrible. And you can look at, like, Mexico is ruled by, like, a group of families. Like 5 different families or crime syndicates rule Mexico. Oligarchy. That's an oligarchy. Only a few people. The United States is an oligarchy. There's a few wealthy families that control and fund the 2 political parties. This is an oligarchy. They don't play that. They don't waste time. They don't play those games in Saudi Arabia. It's just one family, the Arabian, the Saudis. And they changed the country from Arabia. Remember that song, Lawrence of the song in the movie Lawrence of Arabia? It was called Arabia up until the Saud family, with the assistance of the British Empire and the U.S. I don't think it was the CIA. I think it was the OSS agency, placed them in power. It's like, I don't want to, because the United States, when they went to Arabia to negotiate for the oils, when the European and American oil companies and mining companies went to the Saudi, they didn't want to have to talk to a democratic elected representatives of the people of Saudi Arabia, or I'm sorry, of Arabia, because they have different liberals and conservatives and debate and negotiation, and then the representatives just might get in their mind, I'm not here to facilitate the rape of my country by foreign interests. They might just get that in their heads. I'm actually here to represent my constituents. That's messy. So you'll notice the United States, they talk about going around the world to set up democracy when they have undermined democracy everywhere they found it. And they prefer foreign third world dictatorships. But anyway, Saudi Arabia. The crown prince of Saudi Arabia, and they say he's progressive. They love him because he let women drive. Just in the last few months, women are allowed to ghost ride the rip in Saudi Arabia. And they were like, wow, a new age, a new era. You know, and I can talk about that, you know, feminism. And the feminists actually take credit for helping the women of Saudi Arabia get the right to drive. But this guy, man, these names. Here we go. Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. So let's call him Mohammed bin Salman for short. You know, these people, they're full of themselves. They got these magnificent names. Now, I truly don't wish to butcher their names. I am a poor black man, product of the poor black public education system. So I'm not very worldly, not well-traveled. So I'm not butchering these names. If I knew how to say the names correct, I could say Jamal. That's Khashoggi, the journalist's face. I could say Jamal. I know a lot of Jamals. But anyway, this journalist who was critical of the Saudi regime, actually, he was pretty moderate. He was in good with the royal family. He was their boy of the uncles. But this guy, Mohammed bin Salman, he been offing everybody. You know, this the Game of Thrones. It's Game of Thrones in Saudi Arabia. Real talk. And you know, except for the dragons and the ice zombies. I hope I'm not spoiling Game of Thrones if you haven't seen it yet. You take away the dragons and the ice zombies, but you keep the incest and the murder and the theft of resources. So it's like a less interesting Game of Thrones. I said it. And it's all documented. I can't even say I said it. I read it. Anyway, they go and kill this journalist. And they take him into the consulate. And remember, the consulate is not an embassy. An embassy is if a foreign nation has embassy on a foreign soil, that soil is legally classified as their territory. So if you go to the Nigerian embassy, I don't know where it's located in the United States. But if you go, and most of the embassies are in New York. So if you go to the embassy, or let's say you're in Saudi Arabia. If you go to the American embassy, that is considered American territory. American laws, American Constitution applies there. That even though it's in the country of Saudi Arabia, that is a satellite of American sovereign territory. But consulates are not that. Like right downtown, across the street from where my wife is a professor, is the Filipino consulate. That's not sovereign territory. You go down there and they say the Philippines, the Filipino government, they have special parking for them. They get special license plate, and their diplomats come and go from there. But that's not considered sovereign territory. You could kick in the door waving the 4-4 there. The cops could. You could literally walk up in there. The police can come and go. It's not sovereign territory. U.S. law applies there. But if it's an embassy, let's say Julian Assange has been at the, is it the Argentinian or Venezuela? No, Argentinian embassy. And the British government wants to arrest Julian Assange, but he's literally in a different country, within the UK. So if somebody's after you and you run up in an embassy, then the police can't pursue you into that embassy. They would have to make a formal request to the security forces at that embassy and ask them to expel you or ask them to send you out. And the embassy has a choice to say no. And the embassy could say to you, as long as you stay within this building, You're in our territory, and the government, the U.S. government, can't come in here and get you. Because if they did, it would be a violation of international law, as if the United States. But that's the way it's on paper. But anyway, this dude was in a consulate. He was not in an embassy. And so Turkish law applied. He was a refugee, I guess. And all this guy did was write some articles critical. Like, I don't think the government should do things this way. I think they should have probably considered doing things that way. And I think Mohammed bin Salman is not the great reformer that everyone says he is. He just said some things he didn't have to say, but he said them anyway. And so this dude sends a kill team. And the head of the kill team was apparently this dude who has intricate knowledge of human anatomy and physiology, and could literally dissect your body while you're still alive. And so anyway, they tortured this guy. They chopped off his fingers. They beat him. They used electrode. They tortured this guy during interrogation. They killed him, and they chopped up his body, which is an international incident, because this guy was a permanent resident of the United States. So for all intents and purposes, the Saudi Arabian government murdered an American on Turkish soil. So they committed international local crimes. This is an Interpol situation, which makes Mohammed bin Salman, who ordered the death, an international criminal. He should not be able to leave his country without being arrested. If he came to the United States, he should be arrested and turned over to the International Court of Human Rights. He should have all of his assets all around the world frozen. And he has assets. You know, one of his major assets? They have more than $100 million worth of real estate that they bought from Trump. You go to Trump Tower in New York, the top 5 floors are owned by the Saudi royal family. Donald J. Trump has big ties. In fact, it has been the tradition for as far back as I know, whenever a new president is elected, his first international trip is one of the most significant trips of his presidency. It really solidifies his agenda and his loyalties. And for the most part, most presidents don't want to make a big scene or a statement with their first international trip. So they'll either go to Canada or Mexico, because those are our 2 closest neighbors. And so they were like, you know, I want to secure the region, the northern hemisphere. I want to make sure those ties are solidified. And it's a non-controversial move. If you go to London, or if you go to Paris, or if you go to Germany, if you go to France, Germany, or the UK, then there's a lot of haggling to be done. Oh, the president's first trip is to the UK, the first president's first trip. So most presidents on their first trip, like Obama, I believe Obama went to Mexico or Canada, I don't know. They always say, my first international trip as president, I'm going to either go to Canada or to Mexico, because there's no controversy there. There's no haggling. There's no tug of war. Nobody can make all these think pieces and speculations. But that is a very important symbolic act by the President of the United States. And so when Trump was elected, they said to him, where are you going, Canada or Mexico, to get this first trip out of the way, you know, and it gets you used to your security detail, because being president, everybody hates the American president, because America is a U.S. empire of the great Satan. Everybody wants to take a chunk out of America. So you know, you got to get used to this. Secret Service protection, the protocol, you got to set up before you get there, and your room has to be swept and all that. So let's get this first trip out of the way so we can train you on how, when we travel and how we move and maneuver, it'd be very clear. And Trump said, okay, my first trip will be, drum roll, Saudi Arabia. And everybody was like, wait, didn't you just say they were terrorists? You were going to bomb the, wait, what? What? My first trip is going to Saudi Arabia. And everyone knows the House of Saud, the billionaire oil monarchs, he basically sold his first presidential trip. He sold it to the highest bidder. And the House of Saud has as much money and as much dirt on Trump as the House of Putin. He's a, I mean, Trump is a trick, man. He is a hoe for sale. He'll cock that big orange thigh up on anybody and twerk that big orange ass for anybody that pays. Your president is a whore. A cheap back alley whore. Not to disrespect sex workers, But the only thing I don't like is a sex worker that is a sex worker by night and a puritanical hypocrite by day. I have no problem with honest hoes. I hate lying hoes. I'm like Willie D. I was raised by Willie D. on Willie D raps. Ghetto boys can't stand lying hoes. We love honest hoes. Trump is a lying hoe. He's a dishonest hoe. He a greedy hoe. He's a hypocritical hoe. I said it. Because, I mean, I don't like to talk this way. Listen, go back and listen to Bro Diallo. I was on the air during the Obama administration. And I was highly critical of Obama. But I keep it real. I ain't gonna call Obama out his name. If I call Obama an imperialist puppet, if I call Obama a race traitor, I could back it up. Never called Obama a hoe. I could have made an argument for it, but I didn't have to go there. But this dude is just blatant with his. He's blatant with it. And you know, they say game recognized game. He literally married a prostitute. Game recognized game. Melania Trump, the first lady. Again, another lying hoe. She could at least be an honest hoe. She could at least come out and says, listen, I don't support the Republican right-wing agenda. I don't support the evangelical agenda. And they don't. Trump don't give a damn about the evangelicals. He don't give a damn about aborted fetuses. Trump is about the money. And for some reason, the religious right and the capitalist, greedy capitalists have fallen into the same pit. They're both in the same party. And for some reason, it's a marriage made in hell. They get along real good. And so the capitalists say, we will fund the right-wing agenda if you allow us to economically rape the country. And they were like, well, we'll let you economically rape the country and destroy ecosystems if you can stop abortion and put prayer back in schools. It seems like a lopsided negotiation, but they make it work. Dumbasses. The whole lot of them, a bunch of dumbasses. Don't get me started on the Democrats. If you want some Democratic criticisms and Democratic mockery and some Democratic hateration, just go back to my Obama era shows on the Bro Diallo archive, which the website is coming up, y'all. I mean, it's hard times over here. I mean, I'm living a Charles Dickens novel. But I continue to digress. Anyway, let me tell you about the significance of the Khashoggi thing, because a dead Arab don't mean a damn thing to nobody. So why the hell is CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Daily News, every media outlet, radio, NPR, my competition? I'm competing against NPR. They're not competing against me. They won't acknowledge me because they scared. They scared to meet me in the ring. Yeah, I told y'all every now and then I try to get this whole, because beefing seems to be the thing. That's the way to get people's attention. So you got, first it was rap beefs, right? And I'm digressing one more time, but I'm going to get to the point. We got a little time today. This is the extended show. First of all, you had rap beefs, remember? That was the original beef. Rappers, well, look at you, look at your shoes, look at your shirt. Well, look at you, you ain't got money, your face is hurt. You know, it was rap beefs. And then R&B dudes started beefing. Remember, you had those hardcore, especially in the 90s, R&B dudes was wearing leather vests with no shirt under them. Weird. And wearing combat boots and baggy slacks, shaving their head, you know, gone were the sparkle and sequins and the dancing. Remember the R&B dudes, my girl, my girl. And they used to dance in sequins and all that, in sequins clothing and dance routines in sequins. And then rap dudes and the R&B dudes, and then you had R&B beefs. Like Cisco got beef with R. Kelly or something. It's crazy. And then comedians started beefing. Like legit comedian beefs. And I don't just mean like, yeah, I don't like that guy, I won't work with him. Like they be having comedy beefs. Like getting up, like battling with jokes, man. And so then you have celebrity beefs. Like this celeb is like literally on the red carpet calling out this other celeb. And then you had like reality TV pseudo celeb beef, like Paris Hilton beefing with Kim Kardashian. I'm like, wow, beef is the way to get people's attention. So why can't we have political talk radio beefs? And then remember the pseudo black scholars with beef. Umar versus Seti. Everybody, y'all follow beefs for some reason. So I'm announcing my beef with National Public Radio. Q4 versus NPR. What it do, huh? Any day. Cash me outside. How about that? Gross. What is it? Terry Gross. Huh? This American Life. What it do? I'm gonna orchestrate a beef so that I can get additional. And you know, NPR is struggling. The federal government wants to. So NPR, this will be good for you too. Don't think you're above this. Let's beef. We need some political talk radio beef in these streets right now. You know, come throw a brick through my studio. I'll go throw a brick through one of your studios. Come on, NPR staff. Let's get this happening. Q4 radio staff. Let's make this happen. Let's get us a political talk radio, local interest group, music radio beef. Oh, DJs already. So if the music programs, y'all can stay out of it. The DJs are beefing too. Even DJ Funk Flesh versus, you know, that corny dude, K Slade, whatever. I don't know. We got to have some talk radio beef going so we can get some more. That's free advertising. So anybody, any talk radio, political talk radio host that think they want to come for me, let them come. I'm holding mine down. Back to Khashoggi. Back to Khashoggi. I'm sorry. I really don't mean to butcher names. I know people, ethnic folks, we have a problem because I've had my name butchered all my life. I mean, I was probably 12 years old before I figured out my name was not Diallo. I legit thought, oh, I must be Diablo, because that's what everybody called. Anyway, I digress a little further. America, everybody seems to care about this dead Arab journalist. Right? And Trump came out and said, if what they're saying is true, that this man was murdered and tortured by a government on order of a prince, and this prince violated international law, international norms, human rights, this man has become an international pariah, international war criminal, and entered into another sovereign nation to kill a legal resident, for all intents and purposes, a citizen of another nation. He needs to go to the international jail in The Hague. He needs to go to American jail and Turkish jail. When they released, that's what they did with Noriega. Remember, when they let Noriega out of American jail, they were like, put him in a French jail. They accused Noriega of committing several crimes across several borders. So when you are an international criminal, when they let you out of one jail, you got to cross the border and go do your time in the next country. And so Trump said there will be severe consequences. And everybody was bugging out. And I'm like, why in the hell? Right now, there are Muslims dying everywhere. There are Muslims being still in Guantanamo Bay, beat and tortured to death, who have not been convicted of any crimes. There's no evidence. Guantanamo Bay, you got a hole, and they've beaten them to death in Guantanamo Bay. Obama bombed, not only murdered an American citizen, he then, a few days later, murdered his son. His 16-year-old son, who neither one of them had been indicted or convicted of a crime. They just said some things Obama didn't like. And Obama accused him of a crime, and being accused of a crime means nothing in American jurisprudence. And then don't get me talking about Yemen. There's massacres occurring in Yemen. There's starvation occurring in Yemen. In Syria, there are several interests fighting in Syria. Do we even remember we're currently at war, the longest U.S. war, which it isn't a war, it's an invasion and occupation. There has been no declaration of war. But Iraq, over 1 million Iraqis killed. They haven't even done a body count for Afghanistan because Afghanistan doesn't even have the infrastructure. America is dropping billion-dollar high-tech bombs on a country that has an infrastructure dating back to the 1700s. They don't have any major highways, any major ports, any major electrical grid. They ain't got nothing. And America's bombing them. They can't bomb them to the Stone Age because they were in the Stone Age when you started bombing them. You got to bomb them back to the Jurassic Age. So all this mass murder throughout the Middle East of Muslims, even in China, they're massacring Muslims, and look at in India, the Hindus are killing Muslims, are dying everywhere. It is literally an unspoken crusade. It is an unspoken crusade against Muslims. Muslims are catching hell everywhere. Now, let me tell you something. Everybody knows I hate religion, all religions, including Islam. I got no love for Islam. But I love Muslims. My father is a Muslim. My two oldest brothers, Artie and Linnell, are Muslims. Some of my best homies, for some reason I ain't figured out, some of the dudes I came up with are Muslims. One of my best friends in New York, when I first graduated and first started in my career as a radiographer at Rikers Island, one of the first friends I made was this guy, Moshe Mala Muhammad. He was a Saudi Arabian. He gave me some insights to Saudi Arabia. But Moshe Mala Muhammad, he and I were cool. We got along, which I would say he was from Saudi Arabia, and I would tell him how to be a good American, and he would tell me how to be a good Muslim, and how to, if I ever made my way to Saudi Arabia, which I would never set foot in Saudi Arabia. But if I ever made my way to Saudi Arabia, how I could get by the best places to get the best falafel. We were good friends. We would talk. And then he ended up marrying some woman and moved to Los Angeles. So I ain't heard from him since. But I get along with Muslims person to person. Especially, if they're willing, but like I said, if you do your Malcolm X and you put your religion in your closet, we can get along. I got no love. But I got to acknowledge what real, got to recognize real. It is a modern day anti-Islamic crusade. When Muslims talk about Islamophobia, and there is a war, I mean, everywhere you turn. But I guess the Muslim community can give as much as they get. Because if you go to Libya, if you go to Mauritania, if you go to the Sahara and the northern Sahel region, if you go to Senegal, places where Muslims are not directly under siege, if you go to Nigeria, northern Nigeria, you find the Muslims committing as many massacres in areas where they have a level of power, where they have a level of sovereignty. When you find Muslims in a place where they got the power, they are engaged in the same atrocities. Mass murder, mass rape, slavery. If you go to the Sudan. So everywhere Muslims are not under attack, Muslims are on the attack. I don't understand it. But I don't think it's a contradiction. I don't think that we can use what Muslims are doing in Saudi Arabia to justify what Zionists are doing in Palestine. Right is right and wrong is wrong. You could say, listen, white people, the Irish in America, the coppers, Irish is one of the most racist demographic in America. But I could also look at the struggle of Ireland to get out from, colonization and the conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants. I can look honestly at that. War in the East, war in the West, war in the North, war in the South. That's capitalism. Marx told us. V.I. Lenin, white men who did the forbidden thing and actually looked critically at white people and honestly at white people, they told us capitalism is going to be perpetual, universal warfare. And another white man, who I don't really think was an honest white man, said that if white people, he was talking for, by, and of white people. And that's the thing. Well, a lot of times we weary white people who are writing about white people, but they don't say white people. They just write mankind, humanity. And we think, well, we're humans, we're mankind. These white people ain't thinking about you when they write this stuff. But Hobbes said, in the state of nature, it's everyone against everyone. It's war of everybody against everybody. He said war is, in the state of nature, humanity, life for humans is brutal, short, and something, insecure or something. Brutal, violent, and short or something. No, brutal and violent. I don't remember what Hobbes said, but I mean, I haven't read Leviathan since I graduated college, but I need to revisit that. Because, I mean, that is a real, you ever want to go on a tour through the white mentality? I mean, I know y'all love the ISIS papers, y'all love Urugu, y'all love the psychopathic personality, but those are black people looking at white folks from the outside. But you go read somebody like Hobbes, that's a white person talking about white people from the inside. Brutish, and did he just say brutish and short? I thought he said three. Yes, okay, I got it. Hobbes said, mankind in a state of nature is nasty, brutish, and short. I always forget the nasty part because I like nastiness. I don't like to associate nastiness with violence. You know, I like to associate nastiness with intimacy, but that's me. You know, I grew up listening to Janet Jackson. She said I could call her Miss Jackson if I was nasty. So he said, in a state of nature, in a state where there is no governance, where there is no infrastructure, where there is no bureaucracy, a state of anarchy, he said, oh, he also said it's nasty, brutish, and short, it's isolated. And Hobbes said, in order to have peace, in order for man to have an extended life, in order for man to be a life of reduced levels of violence, in order to have a life of chastity, I guess, so it's not so nasty and freaky deaky, Hobbes said that you had to have a strong ruler, a strong dictator. That's what he said. He said, what will protect you? You need a king. You need a government. You need a military. You need something strong and powerful to stop you from acting out your natural impulses. You need a religion. You need a pope. You need a pastor, a bishop. And again, Hobbes wasn't thinking about black folks. Now, black people read this and like, he was mankind. I'm part of mankind. You want to integrate with white folks? His name is Hobbes. 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 He was a European philosopher. Long dead, long buried. But he was one of the first person that liked conservatives. He's the early father of conservative thought. I mean, he was around in the 1600s. But he wrote this book called Leviathan, and every undergrad, political science undergrad had to read Leviathan. And I'm like, I don't know why this is considered ancient. This is some pretty modern stuff. But I'm like, wow, this is very penetrating in the minds of white people, how white people view themselves and how they construct their social relations. But anyway, he wanted a dictatorship. But what we have come to find is that the dictatorships, the Leviathans that Hobbes advocated for, are brutish, nasty, and short. So his idea that having an absolute monarch like Saudi Arabia will bring peace to the people. But you know, we're here. He's back there. Hobbes was writing this in literally the when did it come out? Well, that's why God gave us the worldwide internet. I'll give y'all some dates. This ain't from the dome. Oh, okay, 1654. He wrote Leviathan in 1654. Which is an interesting book. I mean, like I said, I know people are like, wow, this great political thinker, this great political philosopher, and blah, blah, blah. And he's influenced Western culture and Western statehood and statecraft. I was like, man, this dude is snitching on his own people. He's telling some things. You know, didn't Oprah say, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them, or something like that? Another Western philosopher, Oprah Winfrey. So we had between 1654 all the way up to 2018 to find out that Hobbes didn't know what the blood clot he was talking about. And we found that anarcho societies that didn't have absolute monarchs, societies that gave what really create a peaceful society is giving people some personal sovereignty, some personal autonomy. When you leave people in a true state of nature, they are more inclined to want to help each other, aid each other, contribute to each other. That is our nature. But putting us in unnatural situation and creating unnatural hierarchy or favoring one racial, economic, social, cultural, ethnic, religious group over another one, then you find that creates the dictatorships, the Leviathans, the hierarchy creates conflicts. Now I'm being told it was Maya Angelou that said, uh, when somebody shows you how hard they are. I didn't like Maya Angelou. She was a weirdo. My little beasties. But anyway, maybe I'm quoting Maya Angelou, but Oprah, they kind of swirl together. They all kind of got that same dragon energy. I continue to digress. We are in our lifetimes, under a new Western crusade against Islam. And the Islamic hordes in other parts of the world are the Islamic colonial hordes, the Islamic slave trade. Everything old is new again. All of these things we thought we left back in the pages of our history books are upon us today. And what will we do? And I love how when people read history talking about what they would have done if they were around during slavery, what they would have done, and how if they were around in Jim Crow and a white man said you can't drink out this fountain or get your black ass to the back of the bus, and black people always talk about what we would have done and how we wouldn't have done this and how we wouldn't have gone along with that. White people do it too. White people's like, I came over on Ellis Island. If I was around, I would have killed Hitler. But guess what? There are Hitlers here today. There are all the same injustices. There are slaveries today, and you're doing now what you would have done then. The vast majority of y'all would have been docile slaves. The vast majority of black people would have been obedient, docile slaves, and looked for an opportunity to snitch on a rebellious slave, because that's what we do today. And white folks, y'all too. The average white person would have been a passive peasant, obedient serf, digging up turnips out of the frozen soil to turn over to your master. And when you got married, and the first, what do they call it, prima nocta, and the prima nocta was the practice of the lord of the land gets to spend the first night with the wife. And the average white dude, when the knot from the royal knights came to the door to take your wife up to the castle, you would have been like, okay, honey, see you in the morning. Don't do us proud. Y'all some punks. Y'all some suckers. Y'all some scallywaps. And y'all like to pretend now that you're able to walk around with your iPhone sipping pumpkin spice lattes, that you're free, a level of autonomy, of mobility, and freedom that you didn't fight for, you inherited, and you're wasting. And you're not even preserving those little bits of freedoms and mobilities and sovereignties for the next generation. You're squandering it. Y'all some punks. Black people and white folks. Y'all some punks. What that got to do with Khashoggi? Let me tell you something else, what I'm getting from this. The oppressors, when I talk war in the East, war in the West, the leaders of these countries, the dictators, Trump, Duterte, and the Philippines, the Zionist leadership, Netanyahu, Mohammed bin, all of these dictators, they love when their people are under attack. The Zionist leadership love anti-Semitism. The Saudi Arabian oligarchs, they love Islamophobia. The American oligarchs love anti-Americanism. They love when the masses of us dirty, poor, unwashed masses, is hating on each other wholesale. And we feel frightened. They hate America. They hate Muslims. They hate people, man, every day around the way, people. Like I said, I was born and bred Baptist, Kansas City, Missouri, who ain't been, like Dick Gregory said, I ain't been bred to do nothing but eat more pork chops. That's my lineage. That's my heritage. Right? And I go meet this one dude from Saudi Arabia. Man to man, ain't no problem. But our people, there are animosities between our two groups. But man to man. So when the people are feeling persecuted, they run to the leaders. Farrakhan loves racism. He loves that black people are oppressed. If black people were oppressed, Farrakhan would have to reach in his own pocket to pay for his hair conk and his jet black meta hair dye. He'd have to pay for it out of his own pocket and might even have to get a real job. But as long as black people feel persecuted, we give money and give power to these demagogues. We'll give money and power to anybody that can tell us some slick words to make us feel better than what we are. We give money and support to them as opposed to the people who come up with rational agendas to fix the situation. The last thing Farrakhan, Jesse, Al Sharpton, NAACP want to see is an independent, free, educated, liberated black people, because they would become obsolete. They would become obsolete. We would no longer want these inspirational leaders, and we want competent statesmen. We would want competent bureaucrats. We would want people that are accountable to us, and we would be in a position to evaluate their services to the community and say, hey, you did not give us adequate service. We're going to get rid of you and replace you. So all these leaders all over the world, the easiest people to lead are desperate, poor, uneducated people who feel like they're under siege. So everybody's looking at Saudi. Oh, Saudi Arabia. Oh, they're so terrible. Oh, the crown prince, absolute monarch, Mohammed bin Salman. Oh gosh. Oh, he's terrible. And oh, the Muslims did this. They cut this man's body. They killed him alive. The Muslims. Oh, look at the Islam is violence. But bin Salman, they support Wahhabism. They love it when Muslims are being persecuted, because then people run to the foot of the oligarchs and say, oh, protect us. Everybody hates Muslims. Let's all huddle up under this dictator. Everybody hates America. Let's go to Trump. Put America first. And Trump is raping us. Trump is pimping us as he protects us. Your protector is very often. See, that's why I don't ever say I'm going to save any damn body. I'm going to protect anybody. I am your ally. I am not your leader or your ruler. I am your ally. And even if I'm in a position of leadership, I am accountable to the people. That's how you're supposed to do it. Ain't no absolute leader for life. If I'm in an organization and I've been the leader for 60 years, that's a cult. That's not an organization. But they all do it. And why do they all do it? Because it works. Ain't nothing complex about it. So the Saudi Arabians, you might think, oh, this is terrible. They got the crown prince in, oh, he's in trouble. Saudi Arabia, they in trouble. Look what they done did. They're not in trouble. They love it. So they're like, oh, look at the American president. Bin Salman and Trump are best of friends. They love each other. They spooning each other in the bed. They love each other. He showed more respect for her, for Muhammad, but they got big money. They get money together. So when you see Trump get on the media and talk about, oh, there's going to be severe consequences, and then you go look at the media coming out of the Middle East, America will not dictate us. America will not threaten us. And if America imposes sanctions on us, then we will have counter sanctions. Rah, rah, rah. It's just like you're watching Hulk Hogan versus the Iron Sheik. Trump is Hulk Hogan, and Mohammed bin Salman is the Iron Sheik. And they come out and they come out on opposite sides of the arena, and the sparks fly, and they talk big nonsense. And they get in that ring and they do this choreographed dance, and then they go opposite sides of the arena. And when they go backstage, they got the same damn dressing room. They back there counting our money, and we think they back there fighting to protect and represent us. Y'all some suckers. Y'all some suckers. You're playing yourself. Didn't the Panthers, didn't Chairman Fred Hampton tell y'all all power to the people? He didn't say power to the dictators. He didn't say power to the presidents. He didn't say power to the beloved black leaders. He said all power to the people. So Khashoggi, I think it's terrible what happened to this man. I don't particularly think he was a principled man. He's not the hero and the saint they paid him out to be. He only ran afoul of the royal family in the last year or two. Up until then, he was all for the monarchy. He was all for suppression of women. So him personally, he's not somebody, but anybody. I don't support the death penalty. I don't support assassination. I don't support any type of violence that is not violence in defense of other people or defense of ecosystems. If you're defending an ecosystem that's under attack, then use whatever capacity. If you're trying to liberate your sovereign land, then use whatever violence that is you have the capacity to use. So I'm not anti-violence, but I do have standards and protocols for the use and justification of violence. Moving on, let's do so. I want to mention Black Panther the Black Panther House, the Save the Hampton House. You can go to the hashtag Save the Hampton House, or go to www.savethehamptonhousealtogether.org. The childhood home of the legendary leader, Chairman Fred Hampton, is under foreclosure, and it's going up for auction on the 23rd, in the next week. Next Monday, it's going up for auction. They are trying to raise $70,000 to save the home. They are converting the Hampton home into a museum. There's a GoFundMe site to save the Hampton home. They're trying to raise $70,000. At this moment, they only have $3,452, so they're not even a fraction of the way there, and they only have 6 more days. Actually, they have 6 days to raise $70,000. If you don't have the money to share, please tweet, please spread the word out. You know, you can go to the GoFundMe. Chairman Fred is on Facebook. He's very accessible. He's very responsive. My wife was just met with him, not concerning this, actually earlier this summer, and she's just always had ongoing dialogue and solidarity with the Panther Cubs. So if you are able to, if you have the resources, I know everybody's struggling. I know I'm struggling. Every day I get to come in here and the lights are on and I'm able to go on air. Is a triumphant accomplishment, because I know times are hard on every boulevard. But, you know, we do what we can, and the people united. So, anyway, SaveTheHamptonHouse.org. The time is ticking. I've been following the GoFundMe, and it's really desperate at this time. This is serious. The home where Chairman Fred was assassinated was torn down, and now the home where he lived, his place of die, which should be a memorial site, has been taken away. And now the place where he was raised should also be a historical landmark, is now under threat of being taken away. And again, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., the Panther Clubs, and a small coalition is trying to raise that money to save the Hampton House. I do support this effort, and I hope that is a success. You could also reach out to China Fox and Chris Marshall, who were on the show last Friday. They actually went to the Hampton House meeting, and they could give you some insights if you have questions, if you want, some details. I mean, it's in any time someone's asking you for funds, especially with somebody like Umar, this online funding thing. So I do believe if you have questions, ask every question you need to ask. You can also donate anonymously if you're scared of the feds. You don't want a Jeff Sessions on your doorstep. Okay, I had to say that, and I'll keep it up. Maybe I'll contact Chairman Fred, see if I can get him on the show. He is a busy man, but we'll see. He's local, though. He is around the way. So if he's in town, he's available, perhaps. But maybe after they're done saving. He said that he's confident that they will be successful, and I'm confident that he knows much better than me what to come. So, moving on. Today is also, this evening, at 8 p.m., and I know it's a late meeting, but, it's Friday night. So, y'all grown folks, y'all can get out there. This evening, we're having a regrouping and overview of the African World Coalition. I'm working to build a rationalist Pan-African organization, a formation called the African World Coalition, the AWC. We'll be meeting in Hyde Park tonight from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. I have the organizational overview that talks about the structure and the formation, the mission, and then various active and proposed formations and projects. Because after going over my 3-part series, Rational Revolution, Practical Solutions of Rational Revolutions, people are asking me, so what should we do? What can we do? How can we come together and do this? So I'm going to start having these formal meetings and organize and execute. So we will be talking about the organization and what we're currently doing and what we would like to do as we get the membership and support and resources, what can be done. And you can come hear it out and determine whether or not you want to join. If you're in the Chicago area, we'll be meeting at the Polsky Exchange in Hyde Park in the Dorchester Room. I believe the Dorchester Room is on the second floor. You know, it's a secure space, and on the south side of Chicago. And the gentrifying Hyde Park, rapidly gentrifying, but we still can carve out little spaces for ourselves as we struggle against all forms of oppression. So that's tonight. That's another announcement. So please, all black folks are invited and welcome if you want to join, or not even join, but hear or find out about what the African World Coalition is up to. You can @ me across social media, give me a call, and after the meeting, I don't know if it's going to be videotaped or live streamed or anything. I'm not sure about that, but I will be posting. You can @ me, like I said, @ me across all social media platforms. But I know the minutes of the meetings or what comes out of that meeting will be made public. You know, we not, because Brother Adolfo, he don't want nothing secret. That don't need to be secret. But he's like, no clandestine stuff. So Brother Adolfo, it will be public. It will be made public. I don't know if it's going to be live taped, but it will. The contents of the meetings and the conclusions and the mission that are laid out after the meeting will definitely be known and made available to the people there. Now, let's move on to Self-Affliction, Understanding White Rage. White people, now I'm getting to the title now. I'm getting to the meat of the bones. White people wilding. I mean, I've been touching on this the whole time. There's several points that I'm going to have to return to in the first segment of the show, because we're on to the new segment. Maybe I should do something to mark these transitions. But every time I do a little something, they always want to flag my accounts. You know, these player haters. I think it's NPR dropping dime in these streets. If I see you out there, Terry Gross, we're going to have words. You know what I'm saying? Word is bond, yo. Sorry. I'm trying to get some talk radio beef in order to enhance the reach and popularity of talk radio, AM, low power FM, and internet talk, political talk radio. I'm trying to get some beef with some other political talk radio hosts so we can expand our reach. Come on, y'all. There's money in beef. All these untalented, mediocre MCs beefing and going viral off of beefs. Oh, speaking of beefs, let me say this, and then I got respect for Vic Mensa. You know, I first saw, I have to say, I don't know any of his music. I know he made, he signed with Rockefeller. I don't know. I you know, what I know most about Vic Mensa is he has a gold Rolex and a South Side tattoo across the front of his neck. And he told that Mickey Mouse dude that he was going to slap his face for mocking the death and carnage happening in Chicago. That's all I know about him. You know, but I'm old. I have a right to be ignorant. I have a right to be hostile, and I have a right to be ignorant, because this ain't my era. Now, you ask me anything about any hip-hop from the 90s, and I am a hip-hop historian. I am a hip-hop connoisseur. I could rap whole albums. Boogie Down Productions, Poor Righteous Teachers, X-Clan, you know, and it ain't just that. Let me not just try to play righteous. The Ghetto Boys, Gripping on That Other Level, Bust Down, y'all don't know nothing about that. MC Choice, y'all don't know nothing about that. The Juice Crew, NWA, Compton's Most Wanted, West Coast 2, Spice 1. Ask me about that. But you ask me about these new dudes, these tattoo, the neck tattoo rappers, the skinny jean rappers. I wish I knew. I can bring my son in here. If y'all want some all that mess run down to y'all, I'll bring my son in. Every now and then he'll play me a song by some YFB duck or something like that. Yes, and this, that. Like, what is? What is? Yes, honey, I think he'll understand. Every time he hears a rap song say anything political or black, he thinks I want to hear it, and I'll just collapse. Oh, something positive. I'm like, I don't know who you think I am. I mean, so what? I don't care. You don't like it, so what? I don't care. Rob G. Rob Bass, I'm sorry. Sure, Rob G is somebody. Even King Dita was a rapper back in the day. Ill Biscuits. So ask me about back then. Far Side, even that alternative stuff, Delta Funky, Homo Sapien, Hieroglyphics. I know my stuff. I don't know nothing about Big Mensa. But I do know, when I see him, I actually see him all the time around the south side of Chicago. And this is dude, like I said, he got a gold Rolex. It's blinding. And I see him around the west side and south side of Chicago. I go to different meetings and activist events. And he shows up with no bodyguards, no security detail. It might be him and a nice, fine young lady. Not that I noticed the young lady, because I am a happily married man. But it's usually him and a sister, generally. And he pulls up, and he goes in and engages with the people. So I don't know about, maybe he does the red carpet thing. I don't know. But I know for sure Big Mensa be out here amongst the people. I saw him, I'll just see him, like I said, Bronzeville, Hyde Park. He just be out and about. And it's never no entourage. Like, remember when Kanye West lives here now? Remember? Kanye West has moved to Chicago. And Kanye West, you would think the damn Obama was in town. And y'all saw when he made that video telling people to keep his wife's name out of his mouth, and how the weird angle he had on the camera, where the camera was shooting up his nose, and he's walking under the L tracks somewhere on the south side of Chicago. You know why he had that weird, nobody holds a cell phone, take a selfie or a video like that. He was holding it because he was surrounded by a security detail, and the security detail was probably protected by another NYPD squad, Chicago PD squadron. And he didn't want y'all to see that he wanted y'all to give y'all the impression, go back and watch the video. He wanted to give y'all the impression that since he's moved back to Chicago, he's in these streets. He's in these streets, walking with and among us. And then he talks, and then he has the train go over his head like, wow, Kanye's around the way. We could go. Remember Tekashi 6ix9ine came to Chicago and was taking these videos. I'm standing on your block. I'm not impressed with that. I mean, I grew up in the projects, but 90% of the time there's nothing happening anywhere, even in the worst community. It's generally quiet. I'm not sure what that means, but anyway, showing up on people's blocks is a thing, and taking picture under their street signs is a thing now. But anyway, like I said, when I saw that with Big Mensa, I recognized Big Mensa. I stay on the nigga net. I know things. I may not know the details of things, but I have an overview, a summary of what's happening around the way. And my wife, she used to teach public school, so she actually, a lot of these up and coming rappers, she knew. Like G Herbo, she used to teach him at Hyde Park High School, and she taught at this performing arts alternative school. And some rappers and artists came out of there. Many of them don't get to G Herbo. Many of them end up in prison or dead, unfortunately. But she always, so she keeps her finger on the pulse, and then she gossips about it with me. So I'm just saying, I know some things, but I only fess to what I know. I'm saying a lot to say, when he came out and said, abusive rappers, we got to call them out. We got to stop supporting these abusive rappers because they entertain us. And I think that extends to the R. Kellys. These entertainers who are what the youngins say, these problematic artists. And he came out and said it. And then people took that as that XXX Tentacion, that how dare you. And I never understood this whole don't speak ill of the dead. I don't understand that. I'm not sure why you should respect someone just for dying. I'm not sure why that automatically gives you this aura of reverence and respect. If I didn't respect you in life, I don't respect you in death. So I'm not sure what the hell. But anyway, that's my value system. I know my grandma raised me right. She kept me in the church, so you can't blame her for anything I say or don't do. But anyway, not only did he call this dude out or call out abusers in hip-hop, when he came under attack, he doubled down on his position. And I respect that. So just what I'm seeing on the surface. And I know whenever I like somebody, I remember when Azalea Banks, way back in the day, and she was making some very astute points about cultural appropriation in hip-hop and coloration in hip-hop. And I'm like, oh, Lord, I really like this young Azalea Banks. She's saying some accurate things. She's got a pretty sharp mind. And then everybody floods me with all this stuff, like, what, she did this, she did this. I didn't know. Can I like something? Can I love somebody? Like when Rahm Emanuel resigned. Y'all don't let me celebrate nothing. Y'all don't let me have nothing. Y'all just want me to be miserable. So I'm very cautious because I don't know every detail about an artist. When I see somebody do the right thing, I try to say something positive. Positive vibration, spoke out to the universe, radiate, align my chakras, hoping to bring some prosperity into my life. I'm trying to do the Oprah thing. Every time I do this, y'all come down on me like a ton of bricks. So I said something. I really am encouraged, and I support Vic Mensa and what he said about abuse in hip-hop. And I appreciate Vic Mensa when all the popular people came down on him, and all these Trippie Reds and all these other little rappers, all these little neck tattoo druggy rappers came and threatened him. He doubled down and said, you know, come with it. And then he seems to be someone with, even he came out with this new song that I listened to that I didn't understand called Empathy. And I'm like, this dude is a guy who's trying to evolve, who's trying to elevate above the fray. So I appreciate it. So I know by the time I get home from the studio, I'm going to have all this anti-Vic Mensa. Oh, you like Vic Mensa? He did this, he did that. I don't know Vic Mensa. I only said that's why I had to go all into this. What I don't know much, but what I have seen, I appreciate. And those elements that I appreciate, I hope are replicated and expanded. That's all. But I know y'all gonna tell me, oh, Vic Mensa, what did he do? How many puppies? He kicked a puppy last month. Oh, then obviously I don't support kicking puppies. So, let me just say that. Shout out to Vic Mensa. Shout out to all artists, especially signed to major labels, that can say, hey, this abuse has got to stop. Domestic violence, predatory violence, exploitation, and glorification of those who engage in those behaviors, and glorifications of those behaviors themselves need to be called out. And if you want to be a celebrity, if you want to be celebrated, be a person of standards. This whole I ain't no role model thing that Charles Barkley started, what kind of man would live his life in such a way that he would encourage young people not to emulate him? We all have flaws. But every man, it ain't even about aspiring to be a role model. It's just about being a decent freaking human being. But I digress. Let's talk about Self-Affliction, understanding white rage. White boys are pissed off. There's a viral video, this organization called the Proud Boys, and we got the alt-right, the Tea Partiers, the militia movement, the neo-Nazi, the Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Nation, all these white nationalists. It just goes on, and they telling, and this is what I don't believe, because they said when Obama was elected, there was an influx, there was a surge in not only people joining white hate groups, but in purchases of guns and ammunition. They said they said Obama's going to take our guns. He's going to have UN troops coming in across the Mexican border and take our guns and put righteous Christians in internment camps. He's a socialist. And so white people ran and got guns and joined hate groups, and it wasn't their fault. It was Obama's fault. Say, okay, fine. And Obama didn't take guns. Obama didn't bring in the UN. Obama wasn't a Mau socialist. In fact, Obama did everything to prop up and rescue the white masses while neglecting every other group of constituencies. And now, when Trump gets elected, the right-wing fascists, white folks love him, they do the same thing. Increasing hate groups, a record purchase of guns. Like, wait a second. So when they feel threatened, they join hate groups and buy guns. When white folks feel secure, when they get a win, when they feel that they're being listened to by the government, when they have the highest, and when white folks have control of the judicial branch, executive branch, and the legislative branch, they do the same thing. When they're winning, they buy guns and join hate groups. When they're losing, they buy guns and join hate groups. What the hell is going on? I'm not saying, so white folks are going to buy guns and join hate groups irregardless, and I know Shayoon hates when I say irregardless because he thinks that we should be respectful of the Queen's English. So he sends me messages saying you're not supposed to. Irregardless is not a word, but irregardless of their standing, they buying guns and joining hate groups at record numbers. Why are white folks so pissed off? What's the matter with white folks? There was a book that actually broke this down of a similar title, What's the Matter with Kansas? And it talks about, basically it's a book about why white people, number one, don't even recognize what their interests are. White people don't recognize what their problem is, and white people don't engage in rational responses to their suffering. Now, black people, we've been indoctrinated to say, if you got money under capitalism, you're doing something right. How else can you get money? So black people, especially with people like Bill Cosby running around telling us to pull our pants up, and we believe that hard work, staying in a stable marriage, sacrifice, and all this nonsense about what it takes to succeed in America. And there's these books called the Millionaire Next Door, and say that millionaires are married, millionaires are Christian, millionaires work hard, millionaires value education, millionaires have books in their home, and they got all this nonsense about how to be a millionaire and how if you just behaved yourself. So black people have this illusion about how white people behave, and white people have these illusions about how black people behave, and all of us are delusional. It's all a lie. And white people, even though they have all the money, they have all the power, they have all the land, they have the capacity to kill everybody. Like Trump said, you're winning, you're going to be so tired of winning. They win so much, they're tired of winning, but they're all pissed off. They're mad as hell, and they're not going to take it anymore. For what? For what? When you look, Jay-Z said, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. When you look at the numbers, white folks are doing great. And when you look at where white folks are suffering, it ain't because of nothing nobody else did to them. So what the hell? What's up with white rage? I'll tell you what's up with white rage. The problem is, white people have lost their check and balance. Western culture is a cancerous culture. It's a metastatic, pathological culture. And the only time Western culture can manifest any level of humanity is if it has some level of counterbalance. And white people have destroyed all countermeasures and counterbalances. When you look at times of white progress, going all the way back to their very first recorded civilization, the Greeks. Now, there were other white nation states and other white formations, but the white civilization where they were able to set up an empire goes back to the Greeks. Now, you had other groups of white people that were nomadic, like you rarely hear people say Viking civilization. There's a Viking culture, but there's no Viking civilization. They didn't really set up empires. They would come places, raid, and then they go back home. And that was also, the Goths, the Visigoths, these other cultures. So the first people to really put down stakes and begin to write down laws, to have a monarchical succession of power, a governing system. You go back to then. They always had, who did the Greeks were fighting with the Africans, North Africa, Hannibal, the Punic Wars, and then the Teutonic Wars, and then with the Roman Empire, and they were bumping heads with the Asians, the Arabs, and the Africans. So you come up even till the height of American prosperity, the post-Depression, post-World War II. The United States was most prosperous. The United States built the biggest middle class and became one of the wealthiest nations in the world. Why? Because there was the counterbalance of the Soviet Union. There was the threat of communism. And so white people and the capitalists had to say, well, the communists are on the other side of the world telling people that they have a better system that will bring them to freedom, that will bring them bread and bring them meat and milk that they can eat, that they can live, and they can have some control over their lives. And so America said, well, we have to establish a humane front. We had to have a humane code. We have to be able to go overseas and say, no, capitalism will give you freedom. Capitalism will bring you peace and democracy. Capitalism will bring you prosperity. And even under, you look at the capitalist nation, and look, we gave black people civil rights. We're giving Native Americans some land grants. We're doing good things. Look how good capitalism is. So white society generally needs some type of threat, ominous threat, or counterbalance. But since the year 1992 and 1993, there has been no counterbalance to white Western culture and capitalism. There has been no oppositional force. There was a time that if I was a petty dictator, if I was an African oligarch, if I was some type of Caribbean strongman, I could go to the United States and says, well, if you won't play ball with me, if you won't give me aid, if you won't give me an equitable deal, I'll just go to the Soviet Union. I'll go to the Russians. I'll go socialist. I'll go communist. And then America would be like, fine, I want to rape you, but how about I rape you using a condom? Fine. Okay, I'm still going to rape you, but how about I rape you using a condom and lubrication? Okay, I'm going to rape you. How about I use a non-latex condom and biodegradable organic lubrication? So you were able to get some concessions from the monster imperial America. And it wasn't much, but it was something. But now the U.S. comes and says there's a term that a white woman, a triumph of feminism, a white woman came up with this notion called TINA, T-I-N-A. There is no alternative. So the United States and Western Europe and its lackey countries, Canada, Australia, Israel, its bagmen countries, go to our nations, go to our ancestral home of Africa, go to Central and Latin America. They go all over the world and say, look, Tina, there is no alternative. We're going to set the terms. We're going to set up the World Bank. We're going to set up the IMF. We're going to expand the charter of NATO. And we're going to have a global capitalism. And now we don't have to pretend to give a damn about democracy. We don't have to give a damn about peace. We don't have to pretend to give a damn about anything but making accumulation. Taking everything and leaving you with absolutely nothing, not even your dignity intact. But what white masses don't understand is that this system applies to them too. The white middle class was erected by the white elites in order to keep the white middle class and the white masses from going socialist or communist. There was a great threat. It's called the McCarthy era, where the United States felt that there were a lot of people who felt that the communist revolution could be created here in the United States. That they felt that the New Deal under FDR was the first steps towards creating a social democracy in the United States. That the ill-gotten gains and the ill-gotten wealth of the 1% would be taken and redistributed amongst the workers who created the wealth instead of the owners who just sat back and hoarded the wealth. So they had the McCarthy hearings to tell, it was a propaganda saying that the communists are coming to take over America, when they really were more afraid, they were less afraid of Stalin coming from across the ocean, coming all the way to the United States and overthrowing America. They were more afraid of people studying the history of class struggle, people coming to understand the true nature and mission of capitalism, and overthrowing America from within. Whenever they talk about there's a foreign power coming to overthrow America, just know they're using that as an excuse to attack an internal power. They did the same thing to Marcus Garvey. They did the same thing to Martin Luther King. They even said Martin Luther King was a communist. They knew damn well. They even said the Black Panthers were being controlled by outside forces, being funded by outside forces. Even the homegrown American terrorists, they want to pretend like Osama bin Laden was running the operation out of a cave in Afghanistan using a Windows 85 powered by a hamster wheel to generate electricity. And y'all fell for it. Y'all fell for it. Whenever the United States says there's a foreign threat, can I tell y'all something? The United States hasn't been under threat of a foreign country since the 1700s. Since the mid 17 to late 1700s, the United States has not been under no threat. There is no country in the world that has in part of its agenda or itinerary the overthrow of the United States. Don't nobody want to mess with America. They just don't want America messing with them. The Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, the Russian Federation does not want to overthrow America. The North Koreans do not want to go to war with or overthrow America. Saddam Hussein was absolutely no threat to America. The Hondurans are no threat to America. The Guatemalans are no threat to America. The Panamanians were no threat to America. The Haitians are no threat to America. The Mexican immigrants and migrant farm workers are no threat to America or Americans. The only threat to America is America. Noam Chomsky stated that the United States will be one of the only true failed states. They have this concept of a failed state, a state whose government doesn't function and whose economy has eroded or collapsed. And the reason why it's a failed state is through mismanagement. A country is no longer functional, has no functional government and no functional economy. But everywhere that they said was a failed state, they said that Sudan was a failed state, they said that Haiti was a failed state, they said that Zimbabwe was a failed state, they say that Venezuela, did I say Venezuela already, was a failed state. But Noam Chomsky, who will be 90 this year, wow. Noam Chomsky said those aren't failed states. Every state that the West said is a failed state, you can find elements of outside people coming in to collapse the state. And a failed state is a state that collapses under its own incompetence and its own dysfunction internally, not one that where outside forces come and crush it from the outside. That's not failing. If you fail to study for your math test and you walk in and fail the math test, you failed the math test. If you're sitting there taking a math test and I throw a Molotov into the classroom and blow up your classroom, I can't blame you for failing your math test. Oh, he failed his test. What do you mean? He got blown up with a Molotov cocktail. What do you mean he failed his test? He was murdered. We don't know what he would have done on the test because this guy from the outside ruined, we don't know whether he would have succeeded or not. So Noam Chomsky said the only nation that has truly collapsed under its own incompetence and corruption without any outside interference is the United States. The United States will be a failed state. Not Haiti, not Zimbabwe, not Honduras, not Guatemala. The United States is on the verge, is already deep stages of being a fully failed state. And white people are pissed off at everybody but white people. And the only white people that white people are mad at are the white people who aren't mad at everybody else. White people hate other white people who don't hate. White people are mad because they are under the delusion that they are the ones saving the world. White people think that the U.S. military is all over the world trying to help build democracy and save other people. White people are under the delusion that they're going overseas to die to help other people when they could be helping themselves here. White people believe that the Pentagon and the U.S. taxpayer and the federal government, the Congress of the United States, which controls the purse strings, which controls the budget, is that those congressmen in Congress care so much about the world that they're literally spending trillions of dollars giving it to the Pentagon to go overseas to help other people. And they believe that the average white man in America believes that he's having trouble making a living and sustaining his middle-class parasitic lifestyle because all of his wealth and hard work is being given away to people overseas. And that pisses him off and makes him want to be a proud boy. He doesn't understand that military conquest is set up to steal wealth so that he can live his life. They got it twisted. They got it backwards. And many black people fall for this same delusion, but we don't have the power, the numbers, or the mobility that white people have. And we don't have as many guns as white people. So an ignorant black person is not as dangerous as an ignorant white person. An ignorant black person is a threat to his own community, whereas an ignorant white person is a threat to the world. Is a threat to the world. They really believe that America went to Afghanistan to avenge 9/11. They really believe they went into Iraq to stop weapons of mass destruction and to save America from being attacked. They really believe that the AFRICOM, that the U.S. military is in Africa to help stop in the poverty and starvation and the spread of the Islamic State and help lift Africa out of poverty and to build democracy in Africa. They really believe, if they know it, that SOLCOM, South America Com, it ain't just AFRICOM, they got SOLCOM, is in Chile, is in Argentina to help. They really believe that U.S. intelligence agencies, CIA and NSA, are in Venezuela to help the collapse, to help prevent the collapse of Venezuela and to bring democracy and entrepreneurship. And they really think that the United States is selling hundreds of billions of dollars to Saudi Arabia so that they can bring more jobs and prosperity to America. It is unbelievable the depth of delusions and ignorance and stupidity that the average white American citizen has. It blows my mind. And we in the black community, we are always suspicious of being brainwashed. We always accuse each other. Oh, this black person is brainwashed. This black person is asleep. White people in the United States are the most heavily indoctrinated and most insanely delusional population in the history of existence. And everybody talks about and brags about just how lost and deluded and delusional the Germans were under Hitler. And that Hitler would have these massive rallies. And people would say, how could you follow Hitler? And there's these BS history books. And you can read the book if you're into, history. I mean, there is some insights to be found. Even when there's truth that can be excavated from lies. But if you look at like Hitler's Willing Execution, if you look at a book like by Riggs, Hitler's Jewish Soldier, you look, even Jews, many Jews supported Hitler. What's the guy's name? I always forget this guy's name. I really think it's my brain trying to protect me. Kissinger. Henry Kissinger. He wanted to be a Nazi. There are many Jews who found fascism and Nazism to be very attractive. Especially the Zionists. The Zionists said, the only way we can have a Jewish-only state is if Jews come under some severe persecution. Because you got a European Jew in Germany, in Poland, in France, and he's got a little plot of land, or he's got his profession. He's a professor, he's an artist, he's a farmer, he's a banker. And you come and say, hey, pack up everything and let's go to the desert. He's going to look at you like you're crazy. Like, I'm a European, I'm a German. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm a Jew, but you have atheist Germans, you have Catholic Germans, you have Protestant Germans, you even have some Muslim Germans. It's just my religion. Relax, fall back. And so Theodor Herzl and the other Zionists knew that a catastrophic event like the Holocaust, the German Holocaust, would set up the perfect position. And many of the early Zionist organizations had a tacit, if not open, support for the Nazis. And you want to challenge me on it? You want to call me anti-Semitic? I can go find you Jewish scholars and bang you in the head and the secret relationship between the Nazi war machine and the Zionist. I'll do a whole show on it. As I had said before, much earlier in the show, these demagogues, these dictators, these monarchs, these con men like Trump and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia love when their people come under, and Farrakhan. Every time a black man is shot down in the street, every time some white media figure is found on the caught saying the N-word, nigger. Every time some white woman calls the police on a black man just trying to live his life, on a black child lying, on a black woman just trying to go about her day, get her groceries, these leaders rise in prominence. They literally, Farrakhan, Jesse, all these prominent black leaders and organizations feed off of our suffering. Now, the way it should be is the more prosperous black people are, the more power black people have, then the more legitimate our leaders. It's like, listen, we've been under this guy's leadership and we're gaining ground. We're advancing as a people under this leader. So yes, he's a good leader. We respect him. We do shit backwards. We're suffering. We build up a leader. We're dying. We build up the leader. How you been over people? How you been a black leader for 60 years? And every year, for 60 years, for 2 generations, you've been in leadership. And we've consistently lost ground. And we still praising you because they feed off of us. Parasites. They're not really leaders. They're demagogues. White folks, every race has them. Everybody's playing. That's one thing. Everybody got these problems. Every race produces traitors. Every race produces demagogues. The only thing that divides the races is how they deal with them. Whether they punish their traitors or elevate their traitors. Or whether how long it takes them to usurp their demagogues. Trump is a demagogue. And white people can potentially be done with him in one election cycle. 4 years to 8 years, they could be done with him and go a new direction. Or they can double down on that. For black people, we can criticize white folks, but we've had demagogues in official leadership positions for 50 years. Now, I'm not making no friends here. I ain't got no compliments for none of y'all. I wish I did. So white folks are pissed off because white people have delusions. Now, I'm going to say something that's probably going to get me uninvited to the picnic. White folks got every right to be pissed off. Now, it's for different reasons. Because white people have what they call the social contract. There's certain things they offer to the state, certain things they give to the government in return for things. And white people have made good on what they offer the state. Now, I'm extracting morality, and this is white folks' business. We gossiping about white folks' business. Black people, remove yourselves. And I know some black people don't. Y'all going to be integrated, and y'all about to follow Western civilization right over the cliff. But I'm talking about all American white folks. White people that like wrestling, NASCAR, and chili cheese fries. Honey boo boo type white folks. I'm not talking about the white anarchist, the white, the fringe white people. I'm talking about the all-American whites. They have every right to be pissed off because they followed this. They kept up their end of the deal of the social contract. The white elites, the white governments, the white clergy came to the white masses and said, you are the master race. And in turn for following our rules, we need you to do, number one, we need you to give your sons and daughters to us, to the military, to engage in global conquest. We need you to eradicate class consciousness, meaning that we don't want a class consciousness, we only want race consciousness. So white is right, everything else is the oppositional. So fight our wars and die. Eliminate and it's a pretty, I mean, give credit where credit due. Up until the New Deal era, up until the mid-1900s, white people had a pretty sophisticated class analysis. Now, they're racist, and that's the thing. Y'all kind of want to say, well, if you're a white racist, then everything else goes out the window. And I agree in terms of black people, we can't ally with racists. We can't work with racists, but we can study racists. We can observe racists. We can research. We can have an in-depth understanding of racist and the hierarchy and the conflicts amongst racist or white folks, right? Anyway, white people at the turn of the century, there were a lot. You had the international workers of the world. Eugene's death, Mother Jones, white people had a very thorough and evolving class analysis that would inform many of their actions. But black people, we couldn't really join in on that. Like when they had the draft riots. It's right. The working class people said, we don't want to go fight the wars for the government because the government does not represent us. They're not fighting wars in our interest. This war is about one group of elites fighting with another group of elites, and we're just the cannon fodder. So there's like, let's go up and burn the state houses where they keep the draft cards. But on the way to burn the state house where they keep the draft cards, they were lynching black people. So something that on one hand, black people could look at and be like, yeah, they're right. Black people, human working class people should not fight wars for the elites. Working class people shouldn't be fodder when one group of wealthy whites wants to wage war against another group of wealthy whites, and then they get all the workers to fight their wars. As Boots Riley said, war ain't one land against next. It's poor people dying so the rich cash checks. And I'm sure there were black people like, yeah. But then, why y'all coming at me? I didn't declare the war. I don't manufacture the weapons. I don't profit from war. Why are they killing black people? Why they burn the black orphanage in the draft riots? So even when white people do the right thing, they find a way to make it an insidious evil thing. And so in one moment where you would have black people that would be more than willing to join with the white masses to overthrow, they always do this. It's always been done. And there's not a movement you can find where the pathological impulse of white aggression did not creep in and blow the whole thing up. Blow the whole thing up. Even when the Soviet Union was coming to Africa and finding very receptive people. Africans have a long tradition of communalism. Private ownership, wealth accumulation, that was alien to many cultures in Africa. So when you come with the European version of black communalism, it was very receptive. But then they still want to be superior? They still want to play master race in an egalitarian communal system? You still want to be more equal than me? You want to be the best amongst equals? That always creeps in. I don't know what this impulse is. That's when we have to retreat to Iceman's Inheritance, Psychopathic Personality, Civilization is Discontent, and these other books, even Hobbes' Leviathan, to understand this deep psychology, this deep cultural repetitive behavior, ingrained repetitive behavior. So white people had a long history of class consciousness and engaging in class conflict that was also merged with racial conflict and race aggression. So I'm not saying this in order to say, yeah, we could have joined, we could have sang Kumbaya. Our struggle is different than their struggle, but it's still a struggle nonetheless. But it's a struggle we have to understand. It's a divergence we have to understand if we are going to be successful in our struggle. You don't think they understand us? You don't think they understand tribalism? You don't think they've got somebody in every think tank, every white right-wing think tank studying this DOS movement, understanding, oh, there's a brand new division amongst the blacks. Let's expand it. Let's legitimize it. Every little division, whether it's Crip versus Blood, whether it's Igbo versus Yoruba, whether it's Kikuyu versus Luo, whether it's the East Coast rappers versus West Coast rappers. We used to be aware and try to struggle against divide and conquer, but now it seems like we're embracing the divide and conquer hustle. But anyway, the white elites, whom I tell every white person I can get to listen to me, the number one threat to white people are the white elites. The white elites made an agreement. They were like, listen, we can give you something. We can't give you everything. We're going to take $1 trillion. But we will trickle down and create a white middle class, a white and I don't like the concept of the middle class anymore. We should call the middle class the buffer class amongst whites and blacks. No more middle class. There is no middle class. There is the buffer class. Because middle class tells you where they are in position, but buffer class tell you their role in society. So the white buffer class, or the white buffer race, and they were saying, fine, you let me get my house, and you give a fraction of us every year or every generation or so to elevate. And so the white people had a symbiotic agreement. White at the top And then the white working class would be the fodder, would be the henchmen, would be the frontline troops for white empire. And then when the spoils of empire, when the spoils of exploiting black people within the country or exploiting people of color from around the world, when the spoils were to be counted, the white masses would get their share. It would be a fraction of what the white elites got, but it will be enough for them to at least look down on at least I get more than the blacks, and more than the natives, more than the Asians. And it was a very good relationship. It was a very functional relationship. But then white people really started to believe the delusion that they got everything they had, not from global theft, not from theft and discrimination, not from deliberately underfunding black education, underfunding black entrepreneurship, underfunding black communities, the deliberate handicapping and economic subversion of black people. They really believed that they competed equally with black people and defeated us as equals. They started to believe that myth because the first white people to do this, they knew that it wasn't, but they told that lie to their children. They were like, yeah, we worked hard for this. We worked hard for this. We competed for this. We worked hard for this. We competed for this. And after so many generations of this, certain whites knew that, like the white elites, they know the lie. They don't, in order to be a ruler, that's one thing. If you want power, you can't deal in delusions and myths in your own mind. The most honest newspapers in this country are the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times. Because if you're going to be in power, you can't deal in myths. Now, you can believe in Jesus Christ will come and save you. You can believe that sending positive vibes to the universe will bring abundance to your life. But if you find a truly honest, wealthy person, they know, even if they don't tell you, you get rich by exploiting the labor of other people. It don't got nothing to do with Jesus or the universe. You exploit the labor. You exploit other people. You take the wealth that other people create through their labor and you lay claim to it. You can do that through contract. You can do that through copyright. You can do that through trademark. You can do that through other hierarchies, or you can just plain out strong arm it, gank them, kill them, and take it. But you got to take it from somebody else because nobody does $1 million or $1 billion worth of work. So if you got $1 billion, you're taking money from other people's work. And white people were told, hey, we're going to cut y'all in. We know y'all used to be our slaves. We used to have white slaves. They called them serfs. Slav is a European word. Slavic is a European word. Slave is a Western concept. They went to Africa and said, look at the slaves in Africa. Look at the slaves in the New World. They didn't have the vocabulary to describe what they saw, so they just imposed their own understanding on something they didn't understand. But that's neither here nor there. But they were like, we're going to move you from being peasants. We're going to elevate you from being serfs. And we're going to allow you to be the middle class, the white class. And now your skin, which was irrelevant in Europe, is now a badge of honor. And we're going to give you a cut of what we stole from the natives, and what we steal from the blacks, and what we steal from Africa, and what we steal from Central and Latin America, and what we steal from Asia. We're going to give you a cut of it. And we're going to give you enough to where you can look down on the blacks. And you look down on everybody else. And for every $100 we make, we'll give you $1 and allow a quarter or maybe 15 cents to go to the blacks. And white folks was like, good deal. Let's have it. And the reason why the white elites made that deal is because they were vulnerable. They didn't make it because they love. Ain't no love. That whole white unity thing is nonsense. They did it because they were vulnerable. They did it because they didn't want a communist revolution in America. The reason why the communists, the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks revolted and rose up in Russia, the reason they rose up and fought was not because they read Marx and they were, oh yeah, this makes sense. They did it because they were desperate. They didn't have anything else. What Marx didn't create the revolution. He gave them an alternative for when they carry out the revolution, another way to structure things. The people rose up because white people, white on white crime, the czars, the elites were starving them, were working them to death and not compensating them. So they rose up. That wasn't a revolution initially, what made it a revolution is because the revolutionaries came in later and gave them some ideological foundations and some bureaucratic structure to their action. So white people here were like, I want to kill the Rockefellers. I want to kill the DuPonts. I want to kill the Rothschilds. I'm sick of it. The mining companies, the mining barons and the railroad barons and the land barons. I want to kill the wealthy rancher. And they were like, well, we can deal with that. They kill us, we kill them, let's shoot it out. But then they were afraid that there would be some type of ideological grounding. Okay, well, now I'm going to have, that's what the Wobblies, the anarchists, the anarcho-socialists, the communists, they came in with ideological structure, and that's what scares people. White people don't care about, the elites don't care about the violence. Okay, you want to kill me, one man comes to kill me, I'll use my money to hire 2 men to kill him. The poor people rise up and say, hey, I'm going to kill you, and then I give a few crumbs to one half of the poor to kill the other half of the poor. They don't care about the violence. They care about the ideology. Because if you got some ideology, if you got some principles to what you're doing, then you be like, here's some money. It's like, nah, this thought, this idea, this concept, this vision is bigger than your paper money. Then it's a little harder to buy it off. That's why Chinese succeeded, because of communism and sinocentrism. Chinese people have been fighting and dying for 5,000 years. But they finally had their full-on communist revolution. And the white people understood, we can kill Chinese all day. We got to subvert or corrupt their ideas. That's another discussion. Anyway, white people made this deal with other white elites, the white working class. And it was a doggone good deal. And the reason the white working class made the deal is because they were afraid of communism, anarchism, socialism. They were scared of there could be a new way of structuring the economy. That doesn't mean that racism would be gone. This wasn't an issue of racism. Racism was a constant in the background. But racism wasn't enough. It wasn't just enough to say, hey, oh, you might be starving, but you're better than the niggers. You're better than these gooks, these micks, these picks. That wasn't enough. Like, yeah, but I'm starving to death. That's not enough. I like it. I love it. I'll take it. But you got to put something else on it. And so this deal was going really good. But the white masses started liking the smell of their own feces. They started to believe the lies that they told us and the rest of the world, that they didn't get this through having an agreement, through imperialism, through land theft, through affirmative action and welfare. Every wealthy and middle-class white family has received or is currently on welfare. The GI Bill, the Public Works, the WPA, the New Deal, that government assistance. They started thinking, I did this myself. I worked hard. I worked myself through law school. I worked so hard, individual, myself. And so they started voting against the very infrastructure that was set up to maintain them in power. They had what they called the Reagan Revolution. Even though white people were the majority on welfare and getting more welfare benefits, white people started voting against welfare because Ronald Reagan said that there were welfare queens in the black ghetto. White people started supporting, after a 40-year reign of what you call New Deal Democrats, FDR Democrats, where this country for almost half a century was under the New Deal and the New Deal Democrats, the Great Society, LBJ. The Democrats were the dominant party. And white people were like, yeah, I'm getting my share, but blacks are getting some crumbs too. Look at these uppity blacks. And white people wanted to shoot us in the head. But they shot their own selves economically in the foot in order to shoot us economically in the head. So they crippled themselves economically in order to kill us economically. And that's what they're mad about. The middle class is eroding. There's no more, oh, I can work one job and have my wife stay at home and send my kids to college and have 2 cars and a soulless, cultureless, bland-ass white suburb. Why can't I be Leave It to Beaver? The reason white people don't have that anymore is because white people voted against it. White people subverted themselves economically. The white buffer class, i.e. the white middle class, killed themselves economically. They strangled themselves economically. And right now, their children who know, my dad had a good job. They brought in through the Heritage Foundation, through the Koch Foundation, through these white right-wing foundations, white people subverted themselves economically. All of the wounds that got these Proud Boys, these neo-Nazis, all these crazy-ass, stupid white people in the street wanting to fight and kill everybody, they're mad because of wounds they inflicted on themselves. But they're not going to sit down and say, wow, we were really stupid. So they say it's those damn Mexicans coming here to take our jobs. Mexicans aren't taking the jobs that you had. Mexicans are doing the same jobs now that they did 20, 40, 50 years ago. They're doing the same damn jobs. But the problem is your jobs is service industry, the industry jobs. Your jobs didn't get took. The only person that took your jobs were the white elites took your jobs because you voted in Ronald Reagan, who came in with the international trade deals that allowed for offshoring. And then the Democrats were like, well, we still want the white votes. We have the black vote on lock. We can just neglect and ignore them, but we want more white votes. So let's do what the Republicans are doing. So after the Reagan Revolution, every politician after the Reagan Revolution imposed the Reagan, Tina, Margaret Thatcher political platform, shrink government, small government, deregulation, blah, blah, blah. White people did this to themselves. White people don't have jobs, and they want to believe blacks selling crack, making babies they don't take care of, in the ghetto, welfare kings, welfare queens, and the immigrants, the Muslims, the Latinos, the Mexicans. They're out here that marching. You were the Jews, George Soros, the Jewish bankers. I mean, they're trying to point at any group. The white wounds are self-inflicted. And here's the problem. White people tend to figure this out. The white Germans kind of figured out, damn, these Nazis are going to get us all killed. But as Winston Churchill said, you can always depend on Americans to do the right thing after they've exhausted all other options. Meaning that after white people do all the horrible, ridiculous, backwards, reactionary nonsense, eventually they will say, oh, let's kill the Koch brothers and take their land and money away from them. You know, let's go to these casino magnates, these real estate magnates. Let's have a class warfare amongst white folks. But they will only do that after they've killed off the blacks and locked us up and murdered our children. After they put a Native American, and many of these Hondurans are natives. They're not Spaniards. The Hondurans, after they've nuked, the Middle East into the Stone Age, after they've invaded and got military bases all over Africa, after the world's ecosystems, the polar bears are extinct, the sperm worlds are extinct, after all of the bad options, all of the genocidal, murderous techniques are done, you can depend on white folks to do the same thing. Now, black people, what the hell this got to do with us? White folks' business. And as Grandma Bowie told me, and I'm telling y'all, they tell us, leave white folks to their business and tend to your own. But the problem is, there's fallout. We are targeted. We didn't put ourselves in it. We are in it. So as white people are having a global fascist revolution as a knee-jerk reaction to exploitation of their elites, and the white voters, the average white citizens, are the ones who empowered the so-called job creators to screw them over. They gave them keys to the candy shop. And they gave them the permission to screw them over because they felt that it would screw us over too. So what do? Can we educate white people? Can we tell white people it's not blacks, it's not Mexicans, it's not illegals, it's not even Osama bin Laden and ISIS that are your threat, because ISIS is funded and constructed and controlled by your white elites. But your threat are the white elites. How do we get the white masses to go at the neck of the white elites? And how do we show them throughout their history When they rose up against the European monarchs, when they rose up against the European bankers and federalists, when they rose up against the European globalists, when they rose up against the European elites, white people will end up better off. But when they beat the hell out of us, it might give them some temporary transient pleasure and relief, but ultimately they got to go back to their dirt floor trailer parks after they kill us. And it won't change their material reality. What can we do? I don't think there's a way to do it. Maybe there will be a white person, a real right progressive, a Bernie Sanders or somebody else, or that Beto guy, Beto O'Rourke. Maybe there can be, it's going to take a white person to wake up white people. What black people, what we have to do is understand this and set up an apparatus of defense to tell them, we're not going to be your whipping boy. And the whipping boy was the one who would take the licks. Well, I ain't got to explain. Look up whipping boy. We are not going to be your scapegoats. This scapegoat is going to ram you and kick you in your teeth if you come. You're not going to be able to play out your white fantasies or your white frustrations out on my black flesh. Those days are done. So we have to organize ourselves politically, economically, and I'm sorry to say, for y'all squeamish black folks, militarily. One thing we learn, if they know they got to bring some to get some. We got to do, go look up, and every day, every black person, go right now, go online and print a copy of If We Must Die by Claude McKay and frame it and put it on your wall and look at it. Make a ritual. Make self-defense a cornerstone of our culture. Not just rhetoric. Not these clowns out here parading with flags and guns, but us everyday round-the-way citizens. Because they are coming. And I hate being alarmist. But angry, poor white folks are violent white folks. And violent white folks tend to pick on the weakest, not on the true source of their power. So we have to understand white rage, that it's their fault. Whatever they tell us, it's our fault. We bringing down America. All of their wounds are self-afflicted. All of them. There's not one thing that the white, from the opiate crisis, remember, white people are the ones who set up the drug war. They were the ones who set up the mass incarceration infrastructure. They are the ones who set up this non-sympathetic, who wanted to define addiction as a crime, not as a public health issue. Now they're trying to correct that now. But who manufactures the opioids? Who distributes the opioids? Who regulates the opioids? It's self-inflicted. Now black people didn't manage, invent, distribute anything with the crack. That wasn't a self-inflicted wound. But you tell me of a true complaint, suffering, wound that white folks had that wasn't self-inflicted. Now, if you can, like I said, if I have an opportunity to talk to white folks, I don't get many invites out. I tell them the facts, lay it out for them. You know, just the white man, the devil, that's simplistic and it's just stupid. But what we're going to have to do is, again, if there are white elements, Antifa, Deep Green Resistance, Earth Liberation Front, there are some pockets of competent white people, even hardcore radical feminists. The Socialist Party, also the Revolutionary Communist Party under Baba Vakian, Derek Jensen. There are some white people. Like I said, Norman Finkelstein, I mentioned him earlier. There are white people that we can get behind and support. That are trying to enlighten and work and save their own people. That's why I tell white people come to me and be like, oh yeah, we need revolution. And I'm like, don't make revolution because of black people. We are under genocide, we're oppressed. But save your damn selves. White people would do more to serve humanity by rescuing themselves than trying to go overseas and be missionaries or come into the hood and save us. Save your damn self. Save the suburbs. Don't save the hood. And I did do a show on good white people and whether or not there is a such thing as good white people and what it meant to be a good white person. And then we got all these debates about white allies, and we're telling white people how to be appropriate, not to wear Native American costumes, and that it's not appropriate for them to skip over the N-words and whites. And ain't none of that's some all bull feces. You be a white ally by being an anarcho-syndicalist, by being a revolutionary communist and fighting white elites. You don't have to think about or look at a black person to be an ally of not just black people, but be an ally of humanity. And there's some people, like I said, that have figured this out. What's that one physician, that Australian physician, Helen Caldicott. Helen Caldicott. She's trying to save her people. And if she's successful in saving her people, she will do a lot to assist all other humanity. So I think black people, we need to stop being reactionary. We see some white people marching in the street. Oh, they're neo-Nazis. Oh, they're KKK. Oh, they're the Proud Boys. This ain't nothing new. This is nothing new. Starting next year will be the 100th anniversary of the Red Summer of 1919. And ain't a damn thing changed. Shout out to Dub C, Mad Circle, Coolio. I love that album. If you haven't heard it, go get C. WC in the Mad Circle. Ain't a damn thing changed. It's a wonderful gangster. I say you can't be revolutionary but gangster, but I think you can be socially aware and gangster. It's a socially conscious gangster album. So we need a sober analysis because there is a threat. I live in the city of Chicago. Within the city limits of Chicago, that is still a chocolate city, that is still got hordes of black people living here. You can't even buy a slingshot. Literally, I'm not, being facetious here. You literally cannot buy a slingshot within the city limits of Chicago. But you get in your car and drive north, south, east, or west. You head over to Indiana. You head to the south west suburbs. You head to the north side, the northern suburbs, or the western suburbs. The moment you hit a white community, you see gun stores on every corner like you see liquor stores. We are surrounded. We are vulnerable. Remember that song? Boom, 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 boom. I could have killed you. Remember she said, I'm not safe around this dude walking down the street with your man. Right? And she said in that song, very something that hit me. I mean, she said, I'm not safe around it. I got to watch my back. I'm not safe around this dude. We're not safe. We ain't never been safe in this country. The police are what? The police going to protect us? The National Guard? They don't even protect us from other black people. They don't protect us from gangbangers and drug dealers in our own community. They going to protect us from white folks? Arm yourself, black people. Train yourself, black people. Prepare yourself, black people. And stay aware. Watch the times. Now, this could blow over. They could unseat Trump in the next election. They could elect Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders could bring some economic relief, impose, some more restrictions on the banks, raise interest rates, do some debt loan forgiveness, put some fundings and calm white folks down. Before white folks go full-fledged neo-Nazi or full-fledged Nazis. And I hate the term neo-Nazis because the Nazis were actually imitating America. Hitler was a follower and a disciple of George Washington and Christopher Columbus. So the Nazis were neo-Americans. Racist Americans are not neo-Nazis. Racist Nazis are neo-Americans. Because America set off the genocide. It's the only problem is the only reason the Nazis are the villains and the Americans ain't is because the Americans killed black and native people, whereas the Hitler was killing too many white folks to be a hero. If Hitler had carried out the same atrocities in Africa or the Americas or Latin America or in Asia, the exact same atrocities that he carried out on European territory, he'd be on the currency right now. We'd be having Hitler Day right alongside Columbus Day. That's the only crime Hitler committed, is acting white towards other white people as opposed to acting white towards black people. If you don't believe me, look up King Leopold. Look up, take a dollar bill out of your pocket. Take a $20 bill, $50 bill, $100 bill out of your pocket. Look at the name of the man whose face is on that dollar. Look at his history and tell me that America or Western culture has a problem with mass murderers. They don't. They love them. So Hitler just mass murdered the wrong people. He should have done like his German predecessor and killed the Herero. But this is Bro Diallo Show. I really appreciate my listeners. I really appreciate my supporters. I wouldn't be here without you, and I need you. This is not a vanity project. I'm not here for my own edification. I'd like to imagine that I am providing a vital media service to my community. I'm not asking people to support what I might do. I'm asking you to support what I am currently doing, producing the show, producing progressive, unapologetic, grounded media. I know sometimes it sounds like I'm off the rails, but like I said, go and you can research. I encourage you to research, verify, and even challenge the things I say on the radio, because I stand behind. I might missay, because I had said something. I had misquoted. Oh, I was talking about Marable. I said Manning Marable was Manning has the same name. It's a scholar and a politician who both have the name Manning. So when I was talking about the politician Manning, I actually said the scholarly name Manning. And one time on the show, probably 2 years ago, I was talking about Rosa Parks, but I said Harriet Tubman. So I was like Harriet Tubman on the front of the bus or something like that. So I do misspeak sometimes, but I'm not deliberately deceiving. I make mistakes, and I acknowledge my mistakes. But I don't even get a chance to acknowledge my mistakes because my listeners are so hardcore. And the moment I make a mistake, before I get off the show, they're already messaging me, "What you talking about, Willis?" So I appreciate that. Don't stop doing that. Keep a brother on his toes. But this is Q4 Radio. You can find Q4 Radio. You can listen live at q4.org. You can also listen live to this program and all other Q4 programs on the TuneIn app, iTunes Radios, and AM 1680. The Bro Diallo Show, you find me live, broadcasting out of the city of Chirac, the state of Illinois, in America, on the dying planet Earth. You can find me broadcasting every Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., the extended show, and every Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., the standard show. Also, I'm beginning to do, I missed last Monday, I might miss next Monday too, because the Monday Q&A with Bro Diallo, where I answer your question live, Monday Q&A with Bro Diallo. I missed last Monday, and I'm going to be in Kansas City this weekend. Kansas City, Missouri, my hometown. So I will be in Kansas City this weekend, but that won't interrupt. Hopefully I can do the Monday Q&A, even if I have to do it on the road, but I will be leaving Kansas City Monday, so I will be in transition. So depending on how that susses out, we'll see what we can do with Monday Q&A, or maybe I'll do a Sunday Q&A, because I'll probably be on the road Monday. But I'll be here Wednesday. This Sunday, I have to talk to Chris and China to find out the details on Nubians for Literacy, because we will be out of town. So talk to them about how that's going to be organized for this weekend. You can add me across social media if you want, or go join Nubians for Literacy Facebook group. And that's it. Help save the Chairman Fred Hampton House. And tonight, you can come out if you want to know what we're doing, what specific actions the African World Coalition, rational, practical, researched, revolutionary action and institution building and protocol advancement, what it looks like, what it sounds like. And that's all the announcements. I do want to share some music, and I do want to share some insights. So we're already well into the third segment of the Bro Diallo Show. So let's get to music. After the music, we'll be back. Stay tuned. We'll be here until 10 a.m. And if you're in Chicago, check me tonight at the Polsky Exchange. You can go to the African World Coalition and join up. And go from there. Bro Diallo Show, Q4 Radio, AM 1680. Did I navigate away? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Some good tunes, man. I'll check with y'all and catch up with y'all later after the musical break. Peace. We're going off live, but we will still be on the air. So listen at the radio station, listen at the website, and I'll see y'all, if not Monday, Wednesday morning. Peace.